Welcome, everyone, to an extremely frustrating episode of My Mama Done Told Me. Ladies and gentlemen, you get the pleasure of hearing us after a whole bunch of technical difficulties, not only today, but the last time. So it is Sunday today? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we tried to do this recording on last Thursday.
No such luck.
Yeah, we spent, an hour and 10 minutes or something?
I think it was longer than that.
You think?
Mm-hmm. It was close to 2 hours.
Troubleshooting stupid audio and never coming out on top. So
nope.
I think it might be the curse of our topic for this week because our topic this episode. Oh, I should say, I'm here. I'm your host. I'm Jeff, or I'm one of the three hosts.
You're the hostess with the mostest, that's for sure.
Yeah. Why do you not seem loud enough here?
Well, maybe it's because I'm not on my mic
I am
normally.
Yeah.
I'm lounging. I'm trying to get into a better state of mind.
I am one of the hosts. My name is Jeff Kolaski. I'm here with my sister, Lauren.
It's me.
And my mother, Kathy.
Ho, ho, ho.
Why did you say that?
It just came out. I don't know.
Mrs. Claus herself.
Yeah. And this is My Mama Done Told Me, a show where my sister and I sit down with our lovely mother and we talk about all kinds of stuff. And today, as I was saying, the curse of the frustrating episode is something that sometimes I think it's hard to put a finger on exactly when you say, what makes you really angry? Mm-hmm. You know, because so that's our question. Our question is, what makes you really angry? And I think when I was thinking through these things, it's hard to know where to go because, you know, we try to keep these episodes around 30 minutes and go, okay, so there's a lot of annoying things. There's a lot of, frustrating things. But how do you encapsulate what makes you the most angry? And that's not necessary. We don't have to say the most angry, but what makes you very angry? And, then you get into the discussion of anger versus frustration versus annoyance versus, what is truly angry, and so I'm interested in knowing what you guys think. Ma, do you want to talk about what angers you?
Yeah, I think I had a lot of time to think about this since we didn't get to record on Thursday.
Right.
And I think what really seems to make me angry is incompetence, especially from people that should know better. Like in businesses, when you're working with your doctor's office or the bank, and there's incompetence coming back from people that are supposed to know better and they don't. That
can I tell you?
Crazy.
I completely agree with you. And can I tell you? Today, the curse of the angry episode hit me more than once today.
Really?
Oh, Verizon Wireless.
Oh, God.
If I could strangle the company Verizon, I would. And I'm putting that out on the airwaves because I have not, my blood has not boiled. I'm not even going to go into what it was, but it's exactly what we were talking about. The incompetence, the bad communication, the bad customer service, the bad processes. I could literally have broken somebody or something. So I am right there with you.
But I did the last instance I had with my doctor's office. I was so upset and so angry when I got up from the table that I ripped my toenail off.
Ow!
Literally ripped my toenail off the top of my foot. It's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want to wring their neck. Like you said, I would have wringed their, if I had been there, I would have wringed their neck. Is it wrung their neck or wring their neck? Did I wring it?
So, Ma has a problem with incontinence.
Ew. Come on now.
No. That's a different episode.
Yeah, maybe a future episode we'll talk about
It could be a future
incontinence.
episode. Not yet, though. We don't have to worry about that.
That's good. Okay,
Yeah.
Lauren, what about you? What makes you angry in this world?
Well, I was kind of trying to think about it. I don't know if I agree with Mom that, incompetence is high up there. But I think that's more of a frustration than making me angry. I guess, how are we defining anger?
I think that's a good place to kind of start is how do we define anger? Because that's exactly kind of what I was saying a few minutes ago.
I was angry.
Right.
I don't care what you define it. I was angry.
And I do think it can definitely escalate to that. But I wonder, does it make me frustrated when someone doesn't use their turn signal in traffic? Yeah, that's annoying or it's frustrating. But I don't know that, what makes you really angry is our question.
Okay, so the Oxford Dictionary defines anger as a strong feeling of annoyance, displeasure, or hostility. So I feel like frustration and anger are kind of equal.
A strong feeling of annoyance. So if I like touch you with my toes, that might be annoying.
Oh God.
But it's not making you angry.
That's not going to make me angry. It's going to make me vomit.
Right. It's going to make you sick.
You really touched my hand with your toe.
Yeah, you need some hand sanitizer now. But it's not necessarily angry.
Right.
So an amplified annoyance or frustration.
Right.
And what was the last word? Hostility?
Hostility. Yeah.
Okay, so when's the last time you've been angry enough that you feel a feeling that you can describe as hostile?
Oh gosh, I don't know if I've ever really been that angry at. I don't know. Like, this is a hard question for me because I try to be even keeled and do I get annoyed? Absolutely. Daily.
Right.
My job is not one for the weak of heart, especially when I probably shouldn't say this, but especially when it comes to incompetence.
Yeah.
Because, oh my God. Okay, I think I have something. When I have to repeat myself over and over and over again, when people don't learn from their mistakes, that infuriates me.
Agreed.
In a work environment.
Right. And it's more of a repeating due to, like you said, not learning or not whatever. Like, yeah, we have to repeat it ourselves with Mom sometimes because she has some hearing loss, right?
She's hard of hearing.
But but that's not like angering. That might, not gonna lie, that might get annoying sometimes.
And now I can't hear you.
Are you kidding me?
I lost you.
What happened?
That could not have happened at a better time.
Are you serious, Mom?
Go ahead, just keep going. I'll figure it out. Okay, can you hear me now?
We could always hear you.
Can you hear us is the question.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you now.
Okay. Mom, don't touch your ears.
Yeah. So anyway, that, that's the repeating of oneself. Yes, I completely agree.
Yeah.
And it's like how many times, and that's, I think, part of what Verizon had me so pissed off about today is every time I'd get on there to ask them a question, they'd go, "Can you tell me what the issue is? Like what refund are we talking about?" And I'd go, "I've told the last 6 agents
the same thing." So yeah, I agree with you. Repetition when it's unnecessary and it's not just, Well, and so my job, I am in quality assurance. So my job is to find the wrong things and right them and teach the people to do it right. When there's the same thing that comes up day after day, hour after hour, that is wrong, that is incredibly frustrating and annoying and infuriating. And I get angry sometimes. Not to the point of wanting to, not hostility.
Yeah.
But still a severe annoyance.
Yeah.
You know, there's some little things that I thought of because like, I think when I say, oh my gosh, I'm so mad or I'm angry or whatever, I think more often than not, I'm more impatient and, or annoyed.
Yeah.
You know,
Ma, is there anything, what about you? Do you remember the last time that you felt what you would consider hostile? Or hostile? Is it hostile or hostile?
if you ask Pantera,
Hostile.
it's hostile.
I don't think I don't, I'm not easily angered. And so the feeling of hostility is really strong. I don't remember any of that. You know, I can't remember.
Is there anything,
I mean,
and
I
I'll
hate to be
answer.
boring, but I'm not
No,
a
no,
very
it's all right.
mad person. I don't get very angry very often.
But I think, okay, so for me, there's a few things in, I think about times that I've been truly angry, and it's a little bit harder to remember those specific instances, but I can think of a few things where when it happens, it almost immediately gets my blood hot, and I wonder if you guys have any thoughts on this. And, we could, obviously when it comes to hostility, I think most of the time that's directed towards other people, like someone said, or behaved in a certain way that created you
Right.
to be angry, to be livid. Right. And that stuff happens all the time not all the time, but, when it comes to like manipulation, or if you see somebody blatantly lying, or if somebody, calls me a liar, or questions my character or something, or questions my family or something, those are things that can really make me go. But on a more like physical level, have you ever been walking and somebody or something completely stops your range of motion? Whether it's someone grabbing your arm or getting caught, like your jacket caught on the doorknob or something like that.
Or your earbuds yanked out of your head. That makes me angry.
There's very few things that I can think of that will instantly, I don't know if you guys get this, but when I feel like true, like mad, I feel it in my hands. I feel like I can feel the blood vessels like explode at the end of my fingers. And there are very few things that get me to that point. And if it's caused because somebody doesn't want me to walk away from a situation, like the very few times in my life where someone will like, wait, like, don't walk away from me kind of thing. And they'll grab your arm and they'll stop you in full range. I can't think of a time where I didn't want to turn around full swing. Like, yeah. I don't know. Do you guys have anything like that? And then it's even minimal. It's smaller, but it's still the same reaction. If I'm walking through the kitchen and my pocket snags on the drawer, and it stops you, and
you swear, and then you
yeah, like, oh my gosh, it just like gets my blood boiling. That's a physical thing,
Yeah.
But you guys have anything
That
like that?
sounds like claustrophobia. That sounds kind of like claustrophobia for me, but that wouldn't be a feeling of hostility at the end.
Oh,
that would be, it's more a feeling of fear. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't move and I can't get out. And I just completely rage.
So, that's an interesting concept. Your fear kind of, or your
Drives
discomfort almost makes you ragey.
Oh, to get out. Yeah. That would probably, yeah.
Yeah. So when I was looking up the definition of anger, there was a little like prompt that says, what emotion is behind anger? And it says a primary feeling is what is felt immediately before we feel anger. We almost always feel something else first before we get angry. We might first feel afraid, attacked, offended, disrespected, forced, trapped, or pressured. If any of these feelings are intense enough, we think of the emotion as anger.
Well, that's
which
interesting.
is really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So is anger
Anger, this article is saying that anger is a secondary emotion
so
brought on by intense
interesting.
fear or whatever,
or
like one of those
else.
other things that I just listed.
So does anger in and of itself not exist without the other things?
I think so. That's I think that's what this is saying, is that anger is kind of what people see of an underlying fear. They show
it's the result of something. It's a result of betrayal, or it's a result of
rejection, frustration, humiliation, hurt.
Send me that because that would be interesting to put on the feed here.
Yeah.
To show, because that's an interesting way to put it. Basically, it shows this pyramid.
It's almost like an iceberg.
Yeah, like an iceberg where the only piece that's above the water that's showing is anger, because that's what the world gets to see as a result of the emotions that we felt. So if I feel disrespected and attacked because some guy said, "Hey, jerk," and then grabbed my arm and stopped me from walking away from the situation, I felt attacked, I felt disrespected, and I might have felt a little bit of fear as well. And so I turn around instantly angry.
Yep.
That's so crazy. I've never thought about it.
I haven't either.
As being its own, or it not its own, feeling. It's more of a response to a feeling.
It's a reaction. Anger is the reaction to a deeper emotion.
Yes. That's wild.
I've never thought about that before.
Me neither. And I think back to times where I've been angry. And, there was a situation a couple of years ago in my immediate family, and I won't go into the details about it because that's a little bit personal, but, it had to do with our kids. And I remember just feeling so played and manipulated and disrespected, and it was the one time in my life I ever punched a hole in drywall, and unfortunately it was brand new drywall I just put up, so I had to fix it. So that wasn't great, but
right,
yeah, and I regretted it immediately, and I know, we mentioned in one of the other episodes, I generally have a pretty good time easy time, not easy, but I can keep an even keel. But this is one of the few times in my life that I lashed out in anger. To think that that's not its own emotion, but it's a result of.
It's a result.
Yeah,
I like that.
Of disrespect.
It's a result of something else that happened.
Yeah. I've never thought about it like that, but I think it's.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that it makes a lot of sense. And I think it might even make me look at my reactions a little bit differently going forward.
It's a really interesting way to look at it. And I think the same thing that you just said, in most situations that cause anger, an angry outburst or an angry feeling, even if it's not an outburst, even if it's just an internal anger, that's still the iceberg poking through. And depending, if those little things underneath the surface never built up or were handled differently, it might have subsided before it turned from annoyance and frustration, before it turned to true
It's like a volcano.
Anger.
Yeah. It's like all those things are down in the volcano, and they all get, mushed together, and all of a sudden it erupts, and there it goes. It's everywhere, spewed out as anger.
Yeah. Yeah. And
and pushing things down doesn't help, because a lot of times we hide our emotions, those emotions that come up, jealousy and greed or envy or whatever, like
betrayal.
I feel like, the more you suppress it instead of talking about it or making your feelings known. But again, somebody making their feelings known to you might feel offensive, and that could peak as anger as well.
Right. And that there is a certain, responsibility to as a human being in a society to know how to deal with those things and keep them from if we're still keep them from blowing up and like Mom said, exploding like a volcano.
Right.
Because I think some people, depending on the person, if we're still using the iceberg, analogy, you've got a much shorter or shallower pool or ocean or lake or whatever that the iceberg is in. So it doesn't take as much for anger to peak out the top, because some people can take a lot, just always coming at me. And it takes a real lot to make this person like actually feel anger, let alone show anger.
Right.
But some people, all it takes is me saying, even if it was super respectful, me saying, hey, it kind of hurts my feelings when you do that. They get defensive and it comes out as anger. It just takes a little splash of defensiveness.
Or, hey, there's a better way of doing this.
Right.
They get defensive. Like that to me, sometimes that happens to me.
Where
I feel defensive when people come at me with a better way of doing things because I'm used to what I am used to, you know.
Yeah, it's hard to, that's a different topic, but it's hard to take that criticism and go,
oh,
you're right. I could have been doing it differently, and that's hard. Mom, what are some more of your thoughts? You've been pretty quiet.
Well, you guys have really been putting a good. You're more out into the world more than I am now these days. So little things that get me are bumping rear ends in the kitchen with my husband, like you were talking. It makes me so mad, but it's not really mad. I'm just maybe want some personal space. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So I guess when I'm sitting with you guys, I think about when you were younger and when you were growing up, and I didn't feel like we had lots of anger issues in the house that we had to work through. So fortunately, we didn't have a lot of issues with that, which was good. I grew up with a lot of anger in my home and rage and, with my mother, and I learned to shut up and stuff it. And that's not good, but that's what I learned to do because it was a survival thing. So it's good that you're talking about it and learning that there's better ways to do things. And anyway, I don't know.
Do you
try not to be angry?
Yeah. Well, and I would also, not argue, but also comment that anger isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes I very much believe that, if nothing makes you angry, something's wrong.
You might be a sociopath.
Right. Because there are certain things that are worth that, being smart about how you deal with it and how you react to it and all of that is obviously that's, emotional intelligence. That's, self-discipline, self-control, but and that takes a lot of training and a lot of self-work and a lot of, talking to people if, that's your bag with, with like therapy or whatever it may be, and, learning how to deal with those things. But if you're just aloof and everything's like, it's fine, everything's good, like, no, I kind of feel like there comes a point, if this hasn't happened, but, if somebody was, hurting one of my daughters or something like that, like, yeah, I should probably not just be okay with that and not have a certain level of anger. Now, within reason, obviously it's an inappropriate response for me to get so angry that I take it out on her, that I go, hurt or worse.
But you would address, Jeff, you would address those other feelings that are below the surface first before it became to anger. You're talking about other things. If somebody was hurting your daughters, you've got concern and love and all these other things that are under the surface before it gets to anger. And you would probably deal with it before it got to be some kind of a ragey kind of thing.
Maybe.
Concern is different than anger.
I guess all of that has to, depends on situations. And, I definitely see what you're saying, but, if I hate even saying these words, but if my daughter walked in with a black eye because somebody hit her, some boy hit her or something like that, no, I'm going straight to anger. Like my concern,
I can see that.
Of course, concern will come back. I will come back and, make sure, are you okay? Or, what can we do? What do we need to do to make sure this doesn't happen? The blah, blah, all the stuff. But that's not where I'm starting with. Not in that situation.
Right.
But
probably not.
If, it depends on the immediacy of things, but anyway, the whole thing to just say that a certain level of anger drives, change. We talk, whether you're talking about like social issues and things like that,
injustice and things like that. Yeah.
Yep. You think about people that are fighting for civil rights or for equal rights or people in the past who, like women's rights and all that stuff. Well, there's a certain level of anger for not being taken seriously. And, and all that, again, comes from disrespect or unfairness or anything
even,
like that.
I would argue passion.
Yeah.
Because passion, if you're passionate enough about something or, in opposition of something, that can come out as anger as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, the classic case, Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, both having similar views on on equal treatment for their people and both having different views on how we deal with this passion or this anger, neither, it can be argued both ways that both are effective, can be, and both are right, can be, and
justified.
Justified. Yeah. And, so how you choose to deal with those things based on your scenario or your situation and your own character and your own beliefs and all of that, I think are going to play into that. I think that probably the most interesting thing we've talked about is the realization that anger is not in and of itself an emotion.
Right. It's a secondary emotion.
It's a reaction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or a response to emotions, which, I wonder if we had a like a licensed therapist or a psychologist or something here, would they agree with those words? We have watched the movie Inside Out, and anger is one of the emotions in the head, and it's a really good movie, by the way.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's great.
And anger is one of the emotions, and anger is just as important as the rest of them because there are times where anger is good, and when it's not uncontrolled and blah 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 blah, like we've already said, but thinking of it as more of a reaction to. So we are interested in what our listeners think about this topic. We also want to know what makes you angry. What's something that you notice. So it's an interesting question now that we kind of have talked about it, but I feel like, maybe there's things that more consistently lead to anger as opposed to things that make you angry. Are there situations in your lives that regardless, it usually leads to anger?
Right. Yeah.
Even if it necessarily itself is not its own emotion.
Yeah.
What a weird way to think about
it is, but I'm glad I know that because I think I'll think about it differently the next time I say, like, I'm so mad about something. I'll be like, what is actually happening, though? Let's get to the core of it instead of lashing out.
Yep, and understanding that this
am
is
I
more
feeling taken advantage of? Am I feeling humiliated? Yeah. Am I feeling hurt?
Yeah, did I get my feelings hurt?
Yeah, I'm not
for
angry,
whatever
I'm
reason.
hurt.
Yeah. Right.
And now I'm angry.
Right, I'm angry because I'm hurt, because somebody did something to hurt me.
Right.
That's fueling that fire.
Right. Yeah, and I think, not to keep things going too long, but, I think overall anger is, when a person is angry for too long, that can be very detrimental to your health, both mental health and your physical health.
Oh, for sure.
So, so let us know. We can be found on our email, which is...
Oh, gosh. My mama done told me podcast at gmail.com.
You got it. My mama done told me podcast at gmail.com. We're also on the social meds, which we'll put in the showy notes.
Showy notes.
We are on X. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on
TikTok.
YouTube. We're on TikTok. We're on all that good ticky-tacky. Little boxes on the hillside.
Okay.
Little boxes.
That makes me angry.
Full of ticky-tacky.
Jeff's
they're
singing
all
about
made out of
ticky-tacky.
ticky-tacky, and they all look just the
Ticky-tacky.
same.
Ticky-tacky.
Ticky-tacky.
That makes me angry.
We hope you keep your minds open and be kind to each other. Don't make each other mad, angry. Don't disrespect. Unless it's necessary, then do it.
Sometimes it's necessary.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you all down the road. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
What'd you think?
I do wish my ears were working better.